Good morning, Metalheads Internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. And today we're looking at the sophomore album from Bokassa entitled Crimson Riders. I don't really know a lot about this band. Not much at all. I know they're Norwegian. I knew a little bit about their sound before picking up this record. It was described to me as a mix of influences from stoner, punk, and American hard rock. And I also know that they come with an official seal of approval and endorsement from the one and only Metallica. So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because that's a super big deal. Like, holy shit, that doesn't happen to just any band. Metallica, undeniably the most successful and important metal band of all time. Turns out, they're huge fans of Bokassa. They invited the band to open for them, most recently on their European tour, alongside Ghost. In particular, any chance that drummer Lars Ulrich has had to dump endless bouts of praise on Bokassa, he has 100% taken advantage of. Take, for instance, this interview with Kerrang. They asked Lars why they invited Bokassa on this tour, and he said, and I quote directly, "Bokassa are incredibly fucking good. The songs they write, their whole energy and vibe is such a breath of fresh air." Going into more detail of his love affair with the band, Lars Ulrich said this on the Beats One radio show It's Electric, referring particularly to the band's debut album, Divide and Conquer. "Since I first heard this in the last week, this is like my new favorite band. These guys are insanely fucking cool. I heard most of the first record and all the songs are fucking way next level." This is the kind of endorsement that any band, let alone a rock or metal band, would absolutely kill for. And unfortunately, that endorsement does come with some negatives, because it does come with some expectations, shall we say. Metallica are not the kind of band to throw their name up against any other band. I mean, for fuck's sakes, nowadays when they tour, they don't bring just anyone. They often tend to bring other metal bands that could just as easily fill stadiums by themselves. Avenged Sevenfold, Ghost, Lamb of God. For fuck's sakes, they're doing a massive tour of Australia with Slipknot later this year. Slipknot could easily play shows by themselves. They have for many years. They don't need Metallica. But that's the power of that seal of approval right there. That shows you just how much Metallica fucking loves this band. So what does Bokassa do exactly to earn this kind of endorsement? Well, like I said before, they do come with a mix of stoner, punk, and American hard rock influences. They're also very energetic. There's a very no-frills, no-bullshit kind of attitude and aesthetic ridden throughout the record. They come off honest and sincere, and the songs are pretty catchy and remain pretty simplistic, even in the most aggressive and complex moments. Not to bring up Metallica again, but it does at times remind me of some of the material that late 90s Metallica would put out, with influence again from some American rock bands of the early 2000s. I hear influences here from post-grunge. I hear influences from more contemporary bands like Godsmack, maybe even a little bit of Nickelback, dare I say, as well as some epic riffs thrown into the mix via the sword and this kind of classic punk blood that runs all throughout the veins of the record. Think of this as the less black metal, more American-influenced counterpart to a band like Kvelertak, which, as I now remember, was also endorsed by Metallica. Huh, small world. Title track Crimson Riders is a really good example of what I'm talking about. This big, epic, doom metal, heavy metal instrumentation with thundering twin guitars, big sprawling drums, very ominous and dreadful, and building up to an unleash of metallic hardcore infused thrash metal savagery. Another good example, a song like Charmed and Extremely Treacherous, a much more simplistic, casual, laid-back kind of song with a bit of a biker rock vibe, but still a very punky energy thanks to the vocals, the speed, and the general aesthetic of the track. And the band takes some of those punk influences to the next extreme logical level. Take, for instance, on a track like Captain Cold One, which in its opening moments harnesses the energy of 90s metalcore. I gotta say though, I think the band is generally at their best when they're playing more melodic material. Take, for instance, in my opinion, the best song on the record, Vultures. And that has a lot to do with the vocals here. It's some of the strongest on the record. In the verses, it's performed very smoothly, very smoky, even kind of sexy, hearkening to the grittier aspects of American hard rock. with a delicious and engaging hard rock hook that is incented by some really subtle gang vocals and a really solid beat. And even as the track becomes more aggressive and metallic near the end, it still retains its sexiness and melodic sensibilities. And I also like the flexibility that we're seeing within the songwriting and the lyrics themselves. The band isn't just talking about nondescript, vague, shitty politics, they're talking about border police going mad on power, they're talking about the power of cult leaders. Well, on some songs at least. On other songs they show a bit more of a tongue-in-cheek kind of sense of humor about boozy anti-heroes and your typical punk rock shenanigans. Going back to the aforementioned Captain Cold one, analyzing the lyrics, you'll find a particular verse saying, "I get by on bare fucking minimum. I survive on Nickelback and Trivium. I got one motto, captured in ink. If you want trouble, my favorite song by Pink." Quick warning though, if that sounded a little hokey and silly to you, then for the love of God, stay away from the final track, Immortal Space Pirate 2, The Last Shred-Eye. I do not think you'll survive. Overall, I really enjoyed this album. Now, there are areas where I think the band can improve. For instance, some of the melodies and choruses feel really forced to me and don't quite mesh with the rest of the songs. A song like Wrath is Love is a great example, as is the aforementioned Captain Cold one, which, looking back on it, is quite a clusterfuck of a track. But there's a lot of promise here, there's a lot of cool ideas here, there's a lot of fun energy and a lot of fun vibes. So I'm going to give this thing a 3.5 out of 5. If you are looking for something a little bit more eclectic and silly within the world of rock and heavy metal, you can't go wrong with this. That punky attitude really helps, those big choruses, the tongue-in-cheek lyrics. It's all there, it's all cool. Going back to what I said earlier, if those hokey lyrics, if that tongue-in-cheek side doesn't quite stick with you, still give this album a shot because there are still some really cool, interesting, and dynamic songs on here. There's a lot of variety in this record, which makes it a really interesting gateway record to heavier styles of music if you're brand new to this genre. That variety as well also makes it really difficult to genuinely dislike this album. I mean, even if you don't like 8 of the songs on here, there's a good chance at least one of them is really gonna stick with you, which, considering it's summer, makes it kind of a good record to have on in the background at barbecues and parties and stuff, because no one's gonna argue and go, "Oh, this is too heavy," and by the time they do, the album's already moved on to something else. Has Bokassa lived up to the endorsement of Metallica along the lines of Kvelertak and even other bands like Dillinger, Escape Plan, and Lamb of God? Not quite, but to be fair, Bokassa is incredibly young, and also to be fair, those are insanely high expectations to have. However, with time and experience, I think Bokassa will flesh out to become the band that Metallica clearly already sees. 3.5 out of 5, a seriously good record and a good stepping stone for a bright future for this band. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately, and you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.